All right, Ken Smith here again. We're into this 2 months and a half or so of this lockdown, so trying to entertain you with some answers and questions. Anyway, some stuff came up, not directly related to our basis, but to our company and our history. And one was about 16 millimeters. Would we do a 6-string and 16 millimeter? And I think I replied to the guy, but I'll tell you all what I said. Is that in the 90s, from 89 to about 99, 2000, when we made the burners, this 6-string bass and the 5 was also 16 millimeter spacing. 9 at the nut, 16 at the bridge. And I think that's the only time we did a narrow spacing. I think the 90s was an evolution time of people getting into 5 and 6-string basses. We were still making 18 millimeters of our own. We thought for the entry level, 16 was good. Some people still like a narrow spacing, but our demand has been for the 18 millimeter spacing and the occasional 19 millimeter. So we are not doing 16 millimeters on Smith basses, and we do not have any plans to do it at this time. Around 2002, 2003, I was approached by a company. 2 of the principals I knew personally. The other one was a new person to me. And they wanted to do a jazz bass design made in Asia somewhere. I think it was Korea at the time. So they showed me a sample, but they needed some design work and some changes to make it their own, including the headstock. So we entered into an agreement, licensing agreement. So I did the design work. They had artistic license to change a few things if they wanted a different string spacing or length or whatever. That's up to them what their market's going to be. But the headstock was designed. Actually, my son John, he was quite young then. I made a few designs and I said, John, which one do you like the best? And he picked the one that we actually ended up using. Of course, I never gave him his royalty cut, but that's another story. But anyway, so the KSDs was a licensed project, unlike the burners that we produced and sold. Somewhere along the line, the company doing it was Brooklyn Gear. They started using D'Andrea for fulfillment to handle the shipments and sales and everything. And then Brooklyn Gear, for whatever reason, folded and gave the project, with my permission, to D'Andrea, and D'Andrea ran with the project. D'Andrea, at some point, added some models, copies of, they called burners, but they were really the BSRs. During that project, and this is some history that people probably don't know, there was a possible lawsuit pending with Fender against all the people making jazz copies about their body design. Now we know they had copyright on the headstock design from the beginning. They never copyrighted the body. So they went to the courts to try and, later date their copyright and sue everybody who's using their designs 50 years later. Well, all the power to them. It's an original design and the world is copying it. But we had our BSR design, which is this bass here, which we also made burners in the last 2 years. Which has the longer horn, slightly narrower body than the BT. So I had given patterns to the Brooklyn Gear people just around the end they were finishing up with that, and also our headstock design that we use for the burners. And I said, here, send these to your builder. If there's a lawsuit with Fender, we'll just make him in the BSR model instead. Well, the lawsuit didn't happen. I was contacted by an attorney who wanted to represent all the East Coast, makers of these products, but I wasn't interested in his services. And I said, not a problem. If Fender wins the case, they get paid what they get paid, and we'll switch to something else. But D'Andrea continued to produce the jazz bass model, and also the BSR, they called it the burner model, but in the BSR version, and they sold both. But about 2-3 years ago, they stopped importing them. It had shifted to China some years after they started, and all the later ones came from China. And as you know, I was not involved in purchasing, selling, or marketing the KSDs, just as a designer. Just like when you buy a Ford Eddie Bauer model, Eddie Bauer doesn't sell the Fords. It's just a design thing with his name. Of course, in our capacity, it had some features of a Smith base, and we physically did design the headstock. So, you know, in that respect, the KSDs are no longer a product being made newly. And we get this all the time in email, sometimes on the phone, and now we get it on Facebook, Instagram, if they want to buy strings or a replacement jack, a side jack for a Smith bass. And since we sell our strings to dealers and worldwide, my personal feeling was, regardless of what other companies do, my personal feeling was, if we show an online store, online, that you can just click and buy, our dealers and our online dealers are going to feel threatened that we're going to compete with them. And that was a big thing when I started the company. As a musician, the store said to me, oh, but you're going to compete against us. So when you sell to a store, you shouldn't be competing with them in their territory. And definitely the online store is a shot right in the face saying we're going to compete with you. If they don't get it from you, they'll get it from us. We don't want to have that happening. So whatever business that we do directly, when people call up and need something, that's done on the phone or through an email. We don't have an online click and buy here.